Well, our next mini talker is Michael Hynes. Now, he is a superintendent of schools on Long Island. He is a superintendent of schools on Long Island. And he's here. That should just be enough to tell you this is unusual. I first heard about him by seeing a TEDx talk that he did, and we put it out to the Aero Network, and we're lucky that I was able to reach out to him, and he is here today. Michael Hynes.
Two things. It's unfair to go after Jamal. That should be illegal in at least 6 states. That's unfair. The second is somebody thought I was security because I'm wearing a suit here. So I'm not security. I have a very hard time standing still, so I'm going to be moving around. I get very itchy and scratchy after about 5 minutes of being in place. So I want to share 2 stories, because I heard we have about 4 hours together. No, I'm just kidding, Jay. I heard we have a little time together. And the first story I want to share is the personal one as to how I came to be. And hopefully it won't bore you, but at least it'll contextualize what I've been doing and what I've been thinking over the past 47 years. So, first of all, I'm married and I have 5 children. Some people think we're Amish because we have so many kids. Piaget will be proud. They're in all 4 developmental stages. So I have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, 12, a 4, and a 2-year-old. So we call this, when we put them all to bed at night, it's like hostage negotiations in reverse. You know, to keep them in going to bed is very, very difficult. And my wife, actually, funny enough, is an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. So we have pretty boring conversations. But I'm very, very blessed to have such a large family. And I think being a dad gives you a much needed perspective when it comes to serving our children in schools. So the other thing is, when I grew up in the 70s, anybody here remember the Magic Garden? Remember the Magic Garden? Okay, so I was a huge Magic Garden fan. I had a crush on Paula. She was one of the 2 Magic Garden women who would play. It's a show that came on once a week. And my school experience at the elementary level was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. And I equate my school experience going through the system K through 12 in 4 distinctive phases. And I align them to light bulbs. A light bulb that is on, a light bulb that is flickering, a light bulb that is off, and a light bulb that's shattered. When I was in elementary school, it was like a 120-watt floodlight. Actually, maybe even a little bit more. I loved it. I remember playing. I remember just playing a lot of music, being outside all the time, a lot of storytelling, just a lot of relationships. And then, because now junior highs, that's what we had back in the day, is more of a junior high. Once I hit junior high, my light bulb began to flicker. And part of the reason why, for me, when I was a student, was they started ranking and sorting kids. Smart kids went to these classes, other kids went to those classes. And because I'm Irish, German, and Italian, I get pissed off very easily. I learned to get pissed off or have solar flares at a very early age. And I thought it was very unfair because I saw my friends over here and I was over there. So right away the wheels started turning. By the time I hit 10th grade, where I moved up to 10th grade, is when the light bulb was off. And for those of you who love 80s movies, John Hughes movies, Breakfast Club is one of my favorite. I love John Bender, so he was my favorite. He was my role model. That's who I wanted to be once I was in high school, even though I wasn't as good looking or as funny. And by the time I graduated, and I barely graduated, I was in the bottom 10% of my class when I graduated. And my guidance counselor told me, there's no way that you're going to college. Funny thing is, I saw my guidance counselor a few years ago at a gas station, but I didn't say anything to him. That really is a true story. It took every ounce of energy not to address him. But anyway, the last thing I ever wanted to do was to go back into a school again. I was the first one after graduation to leave. I mean, I ran like Jason Bourne, like all the way to my car to get out. And I find myself now in a school system. I just never thought I would be there. And whether you believe in a higher power, whether it's serendipity, whatever it may be, the reason why I have a beard is because I thought I was going to be a psychologist, and I never let that go. So that was my undergrad when I went to college, and I did go to college, even though I went to community college first, which was the best experience of my life, which people for some reason put down, which is ridiculous. And that mental model, that mindset needs to totally change, because it's not 13th grade. So once I found my love of psychology, I moved into teaching elementary school, which is the greatest gift of all. And I taught first, third, fourth grade for a while. And then because I didn't like the way my principal was moving things along, I enrolled in administrative classes because I always think I could do things better, which is not true, by the way, but that's what was ringing in my mind. And so through 20 years, being a teacher, being an assistant principal, a principal at 2 different levels, an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and now a superintendent of schools, my lens has multiple perspectives. And the one perspective that will never change is, how is a child doing when they are in our care? Now, whether you like this or not, the reality is 90% of children in the United States go to public schools. My job is to make sure I put a force field around my school district, which is Patchogue Medford. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's in Suffolk County. It's truly a microcosm of New York as far as diversity, whether it's ethnic, racial, whether it's financial, whether it's even religious. It really is a very diverse community. And it's, for Long Island standards, it's a large school district. You know, it has 8,000 students. Now, I was talking to Jamal before, he started laughing. He's like, 8,000 kids? Are you kidding me, man? That's like nothing in New York City, and it's true. But relatively speaking, when you look at Long Island, we have 7 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 1 high school. Our high school has close to 3,000 kids. And I work with the Board of Education. So for those of you who don't know what it's like to work with the Board of Education, and it's been in videotape, so I can't really say too much. But my Board of Education, I have to say, is very child-centric, always puts kids first. And so I want to explain what we have been able to do, because this is the second story of our school district, is to how do you work within a system that confines you to the point of absurdity? Whether it's at the state level, whether it's at the federal level, what is the arena in which you're playing, and how can you make decisions that best serves the kids who are there? And that is not easy to do. It's almost like Game of Thrones, which is back on. You know, so you have to think like 3, 4, 5 moves in advance as far as if you do something, if you push back. Our opt-out rate, by the way, is 75%. 75%. And I was actually, it was 75% ELA, 80% math, and I was upset it wasn't 90. So we need to work on that. I don't believe in standardized testing because I truly believe children are not widgets. We are all different. As Ken Robinson said, you know, all kids are different. I have 5 kids at home. They're distinctly different. I just call them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 now. I don't even call them by name. But we have to embrace those differences. So here are some of the things that we've done in our school district, because one of the biggest concerns I have with kids and children, and I'm going to say pre-K through 12, is their inability to recalibrate when things go wrong. It's such a skill set that as adults, as children, we can all benefit from. And what I mean by that is we've introduced yoga and mindfulness into our school system. And at first, I was like in a 3-point stance waiting for parents to storm the Bastille saying, this is not happening in our school system. But I have to be honest with you, they embraced it with open arms. So Every single year, K through 8, we have up to 8 times a year, we have kids who are introduced to yoga, to meditation, mindfulness. We have mindfulness rooms in some of our elementary schools. It is remarkable. We have doubled recess. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, but it is. You know, I tell my wife, that's a big mama moment right there, because when you take recess, which to me is one of the most important parts of a child's day. So one of the things I did, to backtrack a little bit, is I shadowed students in every single grade, meaning that for the full day, I shadowed a kindergartner. So I was a kindergartner's best friend. I was like a remora on a shark. I just followed them from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, even to lunch, even to recess. And I remember when we were outside about to play kickball. You know, in kickball, right, it takes almost like 20 minutes to make teams, right? It's like you're over here, you're over here. By the time you pick the teams, whistle blows, and everyone's like, what the F? We have to go inside. I remember that I was outside with a 3rd grade class. You know, I'm in jeans, I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to kick this ball like Billy Madison, like a mile. And we have to go inside. And I was really upset. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I have to go back inside now? So I put myself in a child's position. I'm like, they have to all be upset if they only had 20 minutes. So what do? We have 40 minutes for lunch, because that social emotional growth is so important. Unstructured, we're not policing. Kids get up, they get to move, they get to sit with whomever they want. And then they have 40 minutes of recess. They have 80 minutes of uninterrupted time. And that is a paradigm breaker within a public school system. So you can imagine what happens when other public schools hear that. They're like, well, what the hell are you doing? Because now other parents in other districts are like, we want to do something like that. Why can't we have that if you're doing it here? And my answer is, you're right. So you should talk to your Board of Education. So here's what we've seen, because, you know, I hate to measure everything. I don't need to prove to people that I know it's working. So if we were to qualitatively measure, how do we know it's working? I see smiles on everybody's face. That's my metric that I use. And it's a very powerful one, because I start my day every single day in a school in the morning. And I walk through the halls, I stop in classes, and I always go to recess and I see what kids are doing. And we don't tell kids what to do during recess, like, you're going to play box ball, you're going to play kickball, you're going to go in the monkey bars. It's all self-directed, as Jamal was saying before. Very important that we don't tell, these kids they're told what to do from the moment they wake up until the moment they go to bed. And I have to keep checking myself before I wreck myself every single day with my own kids, telling them what to do from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. It's like a curse. It's an inherent curse that we have as a parent. But in school, we have the ability to change that, and we have. So we have an acronym that we live by in our school district, and it's called PEAS, P-E-A-S, and it stands for physical growth, plus emotional growth, plus academic growth, plus social growth, equals maximizing human potential. That's it. This isn't rocket science. This isn't like we don't need, 25 people in the room to make a decision, to make a policy. This is where our core values are. And what does that mean? It means that we're not saying science isn't the most important thing. We believe recess is just as important as math. We believe having kids in music and art is just as important as language arts or anything else. And I believe not all of our staff, but most of our staff are starting to change their tune, because they're conditioned, we have been conditioned classically over time to think that this is the way we should go about our business. And the byproduct is that, I thought that was Governor Cuomo, sorry, all right. Because he usually screams when he hears me talking about this. The end result, when our kids leave our school system, they don't have to go to college. That is not the ultimate end game. They can go to college if they choose. They can go to trade school, they can go to the military, they can go to the workforce. I don't care where you go, as long as you are happy, as long as you have skill sets that allow you to work with people. Project-based learning, for some reason in public schools, is almost seen as a virus because there's a lot of work involved when it comes to planning that. So what are we doing? We're working toward project-based learning because that's the real world. That's what it's all about. Our children, for some reason, everything is instant gratification for most, not for all. We want things yesterday. But to work on something longitudinally over time is like a foreign concept. And for them to have the ability within school to work with people that they may not like are skill sets that they need. So this formula that we have, we are moving it forward. We are actually revamping our physical education, because phys ed has unfortunately received a bad rap for a very long time. It's like if you're a phys ed teacher, and I'm generalizing when I say this, but there certainly is a hint of truth to this. What do you teach? Phys ed. Okay, whatever. You're perceived as less than, because you're not a content area specialist such as English, math, science, or social studies, or a music teacher. So we are redefining what it means for children to go to physical education. You are going to be educated physically, which means as you become an adult, you want to have a lifelong endeavor that you engage in, whether it's walking, whether it's running, whether it's playing golf or tennis or weightlifting. All those things are very important. Instead of playing badminton for 18 years straight, or for learning the same skill sets with soccer for 17 years. I mean, it's silly. So we're trying to redefine what it means to work in a physical education environment. And then finally, I will end with this. High-stakes testing is the curse that plagues not only New York State, but it certainly plagues this great nation. For students, thank you. And I didn't say that in a pandering way, but I really do believe this will be the bane of our existence here if that isn't changed. That means if we have children who can't graduate because they didn't pass a Regents exam, nothing makes my Irish flare up more than when I see either a child with special needs, or if I see an E&L student, or if I just see, I forget the labels, if I see any child that can't receive a diploma where they've worked through all the credits but they didn't pass a test that we are starting to see is not reliable and or valid, that needs to change. And the 3 through 8 tests I have no need for. When I was teaching elementary school, when this first started coming about in 2001, you can feel the energy of teacher discretion and professionalism change. You just felt it and you saw it. Teachers weren't treated as professionals, and there's nothing, I can't think of a bigger sin than watching the deflation of the love of teaching move and move away over time. It's terrible. So I'm happy to say that, working with people like Jamal and other people like the opt-out movement, there are some really great things moving forward. For Patchogue Medford, and what this means beyond is that we are trying to show other school districts, whether it's here in New York or Long Island or Westchester, that it can be done. The only way it can be done is to embrace families that either homeschool, because everyone is part of your community. I have, I believe, the strongest relationships with the parents who choose to send their kids to private schools or to homeschool, which is really interesting. I meet with them once a month. We have a meeting. And interesting over time is some of them choose, because I can't force them, nor would I want to, sometimes they see some of the things that we're doing and they want to test drive what we're doing just to see what it's like. And that's totally cool. And if they don't like it after a year or 6 months, then they go back to what they were doing. My job is to serve our children and to serve our principals, to serve our community members, and I really do have hope that things will change in the future. But the first thing that has to happen is that Betsy DeVos needs to get out. I mean, get out. And the second thing that needs to happen is that more people need to attend conferences such as this, because there are some powerful people here who have some wonderful ideas, and I can't wait to learn more. So thank you for allowing me to come today. I really appreciate it.